Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm sharing 3 cards where I'm mainly using the same basic elements, but they turned out so different depending on the technique I'm using. So for my first card I'm going to start with some heat embossing, and that will be with some clear embossing powder by Ranger. And the stem set that you can see here is the Merry stem set. It's from the stamp market and it's a gorgeous background stem set. So the idea of the first card is to do some embossed resist ink blending. So therefore I'm first doing the embossing, and then after heat setting everything I will continue with ink blending this panel. And what you will see later on is that the embossing powder that you have melted will resist the ink, and that's just a really wonderful effect. The Merry background stem set truly jumps out of the whole panel and I just adore it. So the colors that I'm using for these 3 cards are exactly the same. I kept the 5 same colors from Distress inks for the 3 cards. This means that I've used Candied Apple, Carved Pumpkin, Mustard Seed, Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn. And the way that I'm using it is, as Laura Basson always says, it's the Christmas rainbow. It's when you go from green to red or the other way around. And I really am agreeing with Laura on that one. I love the way it flows. It reminds me of Christmas each time I use them, so that's what I'm doing today. So here I'm starting with the ink blending, and as you can see I'm working my way from lightest to darkest, and then I come back to get the perfect blend between each color. And the beauty about this is that the area where you are blending and trying to have a smooth transition between the 2 colors, it actually creates another color, and that's just really wonderful. Now the ink blending is done, and I'm just going to take a paper towel and buff off the excess ink that might be left over onto the embossing powder, and this way it just really shines. I just love this background. Next up, my second card, and therefore I have trimmed down this A2 size panel into 5 strips. I'm just going to ink blend these colors on top of each one. I'm not going to do any ink blending between colors. I'm just creating 5 strips of one color, but I really wanted to have exactly the same colors on these 3 cards, so I just wanted to have it ink blended instead of using a colored cardstock, because not every colored cardstock has the same color than the inks that I'm using here. So just to be safe, I am ink blending them myself. So now that the ink blending is done, I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to add these 5 strips on top of it. Nothing fancy, I also didn't do any fancy blending for this one, but I'm adding it, and then I will take that background stamp again and I will do some tone-on-tone stamping. And how I'm going to do that is by taking the Versamark clear embossing ink, and I'm not going to use it for any embossing powder, but the Versamark clear embossing ink on top of some colored cardstock or blended pieces like this really gives the idea that you stamped your image or your stamp onto the card base with exactly the same colors. It's not the case, but it seems like you did that. So that's my second background that I wanted to create. I'm just stamping it out, going to do it twice, and then I will show you up close what the effect really is, because it's more subtle than the previous one, but it's definitely there. And like this. And then we can continue with the third card. So for the third card, I'm going to do some no-line coloring. As you know me by now, no-line coloring with distress inks, I just prefer using antique linen or another distress ink which is lighter than the colors that I'm going to use. So I'm stamping out this background stamp. This one I'm doing on Strathmore Bristol Smooth because that's the paper I really like to do some watercoloring. And I'm going to start in the middle with my yellow, and then before I make anything orange, I first am going to try to create a transition between the yellow and the orange that you will see a bit later on. But that's what I'm doing between each color, trying to get a transition between the two, and I just work my way around on this panel. This was the card that took the longest, but I think you could already guess that. But it also is my most favorite one. I think it's the most subtle one, and maybe that's because of that I like it the most. I don't know. But you can definitely let me know in the comments which one you prefer. But I'm going to put on some music while I'm coloring this, and then when everything is colored, I will be back. As the coloring is almost done, I think you might saw it while I was coloring. I didn't color it in really precisely, and when I checked my panel it was kind of bothering me. So I decided that I was going to do some ink splatters. I roughly teared a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to splatter the same inks there where I used it to color my Mary in. So here the red, then the orange, and I am just working my way up until everything has some splatters. And then I have my 3 backgrounds ready, and actually I had no idea where I was going with these cards. I just wanted to use this amazing stamp set and I was going to figure out how it was going to turn out while I was doing it. So actually I just wanted to use those 3 methods all at once for one stamp set so that you can really see the difference and just see what you prefer. So in the end I ended up with using the Modern Mary from the stamp market for the 3 cards as well. I'm going to stamp this one out twice with black for my first 2 cards, and then later I will continue with the other one. So you have a matching die and I just love that. I don't have a lot of sentiments that have matching dies. Don't really know why, but I love it. And here I'm using the matching die. Now I thought that it was going to die cut it in one piece, but of course multiple pieces. So I am first adding the biggest piece, the Me and Rye that you can see, with some liquid glue, and then I'm going to use the negative of this die cut to help me align the rest of this Merry and Bright so that I have perfect placement. And I will do exactly the same on the other card, but just on another place on the card, so a bit more down below the card. For my third card I didn't want to use black because it was so subtle, the background, But I decided to do some heat embossing, so I'm stamping it out using Versamark clear embossing ink. And then I am using my Nuvo embossing powder Classic Gold, and I just love this embossing powder. I don't know if it's kind of obvious, but I use it a lot. I don't do a lot of embossing that I know, but when I do embossing, I tend to use this one the most. So I'm just heat setting it, and then I will again take the matching dies and get this one out. To adhere it, I'm also going to do the same technique as previously. I'm first going to add the biggest part and then using the negative to help me get the rest aligned. And once that's done, it's time to add some details to all the cards. So for the first card, I am using some chunky rainbow sparkle jewels by Little Things from Lucy's Cards, and I already searched for the colors that I have on the back where I want to place them, so some greens, yellow, orange, and that's it. Then my second card is getting some stickers, the Shape Sprinkles by Doodlebug Designs, Holly and Pine, and I just adore them. Of course, these are stickers and it's not always easy to get them where you want them to go, so I fiddled quite a bit. I didn't place them on there really firmly so that I could still move them around if needed, and I did that quite a bit. But I'm really happy with the end result, so that's important. And then for my final card, I am going to use some Itty Bitty Stars by Little Things from Lucy's Cards, the gold ones, to match with my sentiment Merry and Bright. And then all 3 cards will be finished. So I know that this video is quite long, but I really hope that you enjoyed it. It's also a bit neater than with my other cards. There aren't any critters here, but I really enjoyed it, so I hope you did too. If you have any questions, you can always leave them down below, and as I asked you before, if you have a favorite, let me know. I am really curious about it because these are so different and so similar at the same time. Thank you again for watching and taking the time, and I'm hoping to see you back next time again. Bye!